Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the regular meeting of Council to order. Our clerk will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. I'd ask for a procedural motion to proceed in camera. Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Hemmant. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 5th regular meeting of Council. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. Our clerk tonight will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. Tonight's regular meeting of Council will be held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. The question period sign-up sheet is on the table by the double doors to my left for agenda items only. If during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question relating to an agenda item, please write down your name and the agenda item on the sheet. Members have been granted the authority to join electronically, but we're all here tonight in person. We have no late items to introduce, Ms. Curry. Motion for adoption of the agenda. Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The Mayor's report. We, and I don't mean that the royal we have a number of items tonight. The first is that the audience will recognize we're all wearing our City of Nanaimo Public Works Week Day t-shirts. That was an amazing success. I want to thank everyone who participated in our Public Works Open House and to all of the Public Works employees who helped host such a fun and informative event. On the morning of Wednesday, May 24th, Public Works staff led literally hundreds of grade 5 students through the yard for a tour and insight on how Public Works serves our community. Later, staff opened the doors for the adults and families as well. Whether it's talking about the pipes that bring us our drinking water to Busy Mechanics Bay, it was an opportunity to explore the inner workings of Nanaimo's infrastructure. This year's theme, Connecting the World Through Public Works, made for an educational and fun-filled adventure for staff and visitors alike. I have to say, I encouraged as many of the young people as I could to consider a career in public service and working for the city. City staff don't get a lot of complimentary letters. They do get a certain number of complaints and concerns. And the positive work that they do day in, day out, often in difficult conditions. I'm thinking particularly of the winter, or when a pipe blows in the middle of the night and water and sewer become an issue, and those folks are out there working for us. Whether they're ensuring that our roads are clear and safe and snow falls when the rest of us are burping up Christmas dinner. All of those things need to be taken into account and remembered as we thank them and recognize the incredible value of the public infrastructure, which amounts to several $billion in our community, and the people who work on our behalf day in, day out. So a sincere thank you to all the people at Public Works. Mr. Sims is here, and to those of you who are listening at home, again, thank you very much to your whole department. Now, I'm very pleased to report that the city has been awarded the Popular Annual Financial Reporting Award for the second year in a row for its 2021 Annual Report Highlights document. We do have Ms. Mercer back there hiding in the gallery, our General Manager of Financial Services. The Director of Finance to be precise. This award was established to encourage and assist local government to extract information from their annual comprehensive financial report, which I know none of you probably read, I'm not including council, to produce high-quality, popular annual financial reports specifically designed to be readily accessible and easily understandable to the general public and other interested parties without a background in public finance, and then to recognize individual governments that are successful in achieving that goal. To be eligible, a government must also submit its annual comprehensive financial report to GFOA's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Planning Program and receive the certificate for the current fiscal year. Each report is reviewed by judges who evaluate the report based on the following categories: reader appeal, understandability, distribution methods, creativity, and other elements. As I pointed out, the city has been awarded the Canadian Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the Annual Municipal Report for both 2020 and 2021, and as such, this qualified the city to be eligible for the Popular Annual Financial Reporting Award. A lot of hard work has gone into producing these documents, so to Ms. Mercer and her shop, thank you very much on behalf of the citizens. You do us proud. We are going into a very happy evening tonight. I'm also delighted to report that the city plan, Nanaimo Reimagined, has received the Gold Award for Excellence in Policy Planning from the Planning Institute of BC. The Planning Institute of British Columbia is the professional association of planners in British Columbia and the Yukon that has been dedicated to the advancement of the planning profession for more than 60 years. PIBC is the westernmost affiliate of the Canadian Institute of Planners, the National Association. Congratulations to Lisa Bhopal Singh, the Director of Community Development, for leading a city team with Lanark Consulting to create our award-winning city plan, our strategic guide for the coming 25 years on land use, truth and reconciliation, climate adaptation, health and wellness, diversity, accessibility and inclusion, economic prosperity, sustainable living, and more. Adopted in July 2022, City Plan reflects the ideas and opinions of thousands of people who contributed their time and energy over 2 years. Also, staff from all of the city's departments contributed to the creation of the City Plan. It was very much a collaborative process. Cities work best when interdependent systems work together. It's kind of like a family, and we know what that's all about. City Plan unifies traditionally separate strategic documents to serve as Nanaimo's official community plan, Parks, Recreation, Culture and Wellness Plan, Active Mobility Plan, Transportation Plan, Climate Action and Resiliency Plan, and Accessibility and Inclusion. I'm delighted to welcome 3 individuals down tonight: Ms. Bhopal Singh, Jamie Rose from Transportation, Darcy Osborne from Parks and Recreation, and we're going to have what's traditionally known as the grip and grin or the photo op. And if I may, in further recognition of the city and the great teamwork, it's also been announced at the PIBC annual conference last week that next year's conference, which will be the 5th ever BC Land Summit, will be held here in Nanaimo, May 8th to 10th. The BC Land Summit is the premier collaborative conference for professional practitioners working in fields related to land and land use in British Columbia. This includes professionals from the Appraisal Institute of Canada, the BC Institute of Agrologists, the BC Society of Landscape Architects, the Planning Institute of BC, and the Real Estate Institute of BC. The inaugural BC Land Summit was held in 2004, with summits following every 5 years since. 2024 will mark the first time the conference has been held outside of Vancouver or Whistler. 2024, for those of you who pay attention to Nanaimo history, and no, I wasn't there when this started, next year is the 150th birthday of the incorporation of the city of Nanaimo. So it couldn't come at a more appropriate time that the conference is held here in Nanaimo. So again, congratulations to all of you who worked hard to secure this and have brought, again, pride to the city. Now to something much more mundane. Tent caterpillars. Residents of Nanaimo may be noticing a lot of tent caterpillars this spring. Here are a few facts about tent caterpillars. They are a native species and nest in specific species of trees every year. They come in cycles. Most years they are not much of an issue, but there is an infestation about every 5 to 7 years. They do not cause significant lasting damage to healthy mature trees, so typically city staff do nothing about them except to let nature do its thing. Staff may treat if they are in a nuisance location, such as over a busy park bench, or to protect the crop from a fruit tree. If residents have tent caterpillars in their trees, treatment options include removing the nest by cutting out the branches it is located on, applying BTK to according to the manufacturer's instructions. And BTK, for the uninitiated, is a biological insecticide and is considered safe for humans and other animals. It works by harming the digestive system of caterpillars, and this can be purchased at any local hardware or gardening center. So, worry not, we've had a number of concerns raised by various individuals who've seen the plethora of tent caterpillars, including the weeping birch in the Krog's front yard, but we're all going to survive. Now, starting this week, we will be engaging in curbside recycling inspections, or starting last week, I should say, beginning Friday, June the 2nd. As the city continues to educate residents on how to recycle right, trained cart inspectors will be reviewing cart contents to ensure that only acceptable materials are being put in the recycling carts. This latest measure is part of an ongoing program aimed to reduce recycling contamination in Nanaimo's curbside recycling program as mandated by Recycle BC. And I think we all appreciate the challenges of ensuring we're all, as we try to do the right thing for our environment, our community, and ensure that the city doesn't incur extra cost in its recycling program. Inspectors will be identifiable as city employees wearing high visibility vests, using a litter picking tool and puncture-proof gloves. Inspectors will be viewing cart contents to identify contamination and also recognize and applaud those residents who are following curbside collection guidelines. Contaminants will be recorded using a handheld scanner, and tags will be attached to each cart. If unacceptable materials are found in the cart, a red cart tag will be attached and the cart will not be collected. Education materials will be left at the homes for residents to know. The reason for all of this is quite simple. Recycle BC audit results have identified an increasing trend of high contamination rates in Nanaimo's curbside recycling program. Contamination remediation plan will help the community achieve the target rate of no more than 5.52% of unacceptable materials. And I might say, look, I'm not trying to make the citizens feel bad, because by the way, the reason we're not building a $100 million dam right now is because you have all done such a marvelous job with respect to water conservation. So let's just see if we can achieve the same kind of success when it comes to recycling. As many of you know who are interested in swimming in our pools, the City of Nanaimo Parks, Recreation and Culture Department has developed an employment training program called To the Rescue as a way to train and hire lifeguards and swim instructors for Nanaimo Aquatic Centre, Bevan Park Pool and Westwood Lake. The program will provide opportunities for potential employees by offering financial support to achieve leadership certifications required to become a lifeguard and swim instructor. This 2-month program will have the participants taking part in 7 core courses starting this July, working through the Bronze Medallion, Bronze Cross, National Lifeguard Pool Option, Lifeguard Society Swim for Life and Life Saving Instructor, and Standard First Aid. I know many of you are active users of our pools and have had raised complaints about limited pool hours from time to time. COVID did a number on us, and city staff, much to their credit, like the good folks at Public Works who also get the odd complaint, took a lot of abuse from some people because we simply couldn't provide those services in a timely way because we didn't have the trained staff, and public safety is paramount when using our community pools. So this is a very positive step forward. On another happy note, the first phase of Westwood Lake Park improvements opened on June the 1st. It's one of the busiest and most popular places to visit in Nanaimo. We're in the process of making a variety of phased improvements over several years. Phase 1 improvements are almost complete and will focus on the park entrance off Westwood Road. The new features enhance park access, vehicular circulation, parking, and safety. The area remains an active construction site. Park users are asked to follow on-site signage in the coming weeks. You'll notice changes to the parking lot entrance and exit points with modified access to the gravel parking lot and non-motorized boat launch. I want to thank Parks and Rec staff and everyone who's participated in this. Good reports so far, and a very positive step for the community. That's it for my report, except for one entirely personal item. I want to extend a great thanks to the person who's enabled me to be here tonight, as she has through many evenings when I have been away working. It is my wife's birthday, so happy birthday, darling. I appreciate you having me gone for another evening. No, but thank you. She's only 21, plus a few score, and 10. Well, she looks fine, but we have nothing to rise and report on Ms. Gurry, but I am delighted to welcome Sean DePaul, Senior Manager, Wastewater Services, Regional District of Nanaimo, to give us a presentation tonight on the Liquid Waste Management Plan. Mr. DePaul, good evening. Nice to see you here.
Thank you, Your Worship. So let's just wait for the presentation to come up. Okay, that was quick. So I'm here today to go over the Liquid Waste Management Plan amendment, and my being here and presenting is part of our community engagement process of the Liquid Waste Management Plan. So the green button, I'm assuming, is advancing the slide. Oh, there, good. So the RDM provides many key services, and one of them is wastewater. From the regional district's perspective, wastewater starts with our interceptor line that runs mostly along the foreshore between Chase River up to Landsville. That as well includes the wastewater treatment plant and the marine outfall. The Greater Nanaimo Pollution Control Center provides wastewater services to the city of Nanaimo. And then next slide. That as well includes Landsville, Sonamic First Nations, and BC Ferries has a pump ashore program that started up about 10 years ago. So their ferries, rather than treating on the vessels and discharging in the Salish Sea, they have connected to the Nanaimo system. We service a population of approximately 104,000 people. This is through our new secondary treatment plant, the recently completed secondary treatment plant on Hammond Bay. As part of the process as well, we produce a Class B biosolids that's used for forest fertilization. As well, one of the other things that we provide a service for is trucked waste. So rural communities that are on on-site systems will discharge their waste at the Chase River pump station, and that will then make its way to the treatment plant. Likewise, with the Dew Point Pollution Control Center, solids are discharged at the Chase River pump station as well. So, next slide there. So the Liquid Waste Management Plan it's a long-range plan that allows us to manage wastewater, all aspects of wastewater, infrastructure, programs, and initiatives. The other thing it does is we have capital projects, and typically with capital projects requiring borrowing, electoral approvals required. The exercise of developing a liquid waste management plan and going through the public process allows us to borrow funds for those important capital projects. The last time the liquid waste management plan was amended was in 2014, and the idea is sort of a best practices every 10 years, so we're a little ahead of that. The expectation is the amendment will be completed at the end of 2023. Next slide. So the amendment, the liquid waste management plan amendment, the things that it'll do is obviously continue protecting human health and the environment, so ensuring that we do have capacity in all of our systems, that we're able to manage and convey and treat all the wastewater that is received. And we do know that from time to time we have had challenges and issues, but the idea is that we try to manage 100% of the wastewater under all sort of conditions. It is to build upon the successes, so we've had quite a few successes through our liquid waste management plan, source control, I&I, biosolids, odor control, and so on. The Greater Nanaimo Pollution Control Center was an item that was identified in the previous liquid waste management plan, and that was achieved as well. It's to set new targets and objectives, and those are around various programs. Emerging contaminants of concern would be one that we are looking at under the program, and continuing to advance different programs as well as our capital plan. And this as well, I should say, I'm referencing specifically the Greater Nanaimo Pollution Control Center, which is our southern wastewater facility, but the amendment as well includes our northern facility. And then it's the update of our projects in our 10-year capital plan, and those were presented earlier this year as well. We've presented these capital projects through our recently amended DCC bylaw. And the plan as well will continue to communicate these new cost estimates and borrowing. And this does focus a little bit on what does the ultimate user pay for servicing of the different service areas. Next slide. So as part of this, we do have various fact sheets, and they identify different components of the amendment. And we've broken them into 4 different areas. These fact sheets are on our Get Involved website. There'll be a link address at the end of the presentation, but they'll cover our wastewater infrastructure, so explaining what is the infrastructure that we operate, maintain, and own. Biosolids management program, what we're doing now and what we're doing into the future. Water protection, we've directly connected our DWWP program, our Drinking Water Watershed Protection Program, and the different aspects and initiatives have been incorporated into the liquid waste management plan. We then have the public outreach, education outreach. A lot of that focuses on our source control programs and the do's and do nots. Administrative tasks are annual reports, are working with the ministry and the federal government on permitting and operational certificates, as well as different aspects of communicating to the public on what we're doing. And then the final is financial planning. And the financial planning fact sheet breaks down specifics of the cost of our capital projects, and again, how does that impact the residents to what they're paying now to what they'll be paying in the future. Next slide, please. So, as I said, there is a focus. The information on the infrastructure is we do have Get Involved pages, and they do explain in detail our capital projects. There is, on the following slide here, there is 8 major projects that we have identified here for borrowing. And these are the list here. We identify variability depending upon the cost estimate. So 50% cost estimate is our Class D estimates. The 25 is our Class B estimate. So that's the advancement in the amount of engineering that has been carried out to refine the scope and the cost of the projects. So here we want to make sure that we've given ourselves the flexibility for defining these projects and making sure that we do meet the criteria for informing the public of what level of borrowing is necessary. So it's important for us to be clear that there is variability in some of these costs that we are presenting here. Next slide, please. So this is what I was referencing before. What is the cost? So $234 for an average house. And the average house is referenced quite frequently. This is sort of one of the things that what we did in this case was to look at the number of service connections and the overall cost, and that's how we established the average house. And the purpose of that was to create a consistency amongst all service areas, north and south. So that's what we did here. So this gives sort of a scale of what the increase is. So an annual increase of $27 a year, over the 10 years, $246, with a total expected tax of $480 in 2034. One thing that I actually forgot to mention when I did go over the capital projects and the costs associated with them, many of those projects as well are funded through development cost charges and grants, which will reduce the amount that the existing taxpayers and homeowners will be paying, so that those costs are not factored into these increases, of course. Next slide, please. So community feedback, as I said, we're going through the community feedback is crucial to the success of the amendment, and this is required by the ministry. So through the public feedback, this is an important aspect of providing to the ministry as to the steps that we've gone through. And I think the next slide I'm going to be talking about the survey. So yeah, so coming up, so we started our open houses. We've done some virtual meetings. They started at the beginning of May, and they will finish at the end of June. One aspect of this, and we're asking anybody that we speak to about this, is to look at our survey and provide input. We are accepting input until June 30th. However, we will continue to accept input at any time after that, of course, as well. Next slide. So with the feedback, all feedback that we receive, regardless of what it is, we will be documenting it in a report. It will as well be published on our project liquid waste management plan amendment website. And we will consider all feedback that we receive for the final liquid waste management plan amendment. So based on the feedback, we may be making changes to what we're presenting in these fact sheets and what is on our website. Next slide. And yes, and this is the link to the Get Involved website as well. If you go through the RDM webpage and you go into the service areas, wastewater, and under wastewater you look at you click on the liquid waste amendment, and you can make your way that way as well. That is, I think the next slide is the final one. Thank you.
Mr. DePaul, thank you very much. I'm wondering if any council members have questions. Councillor Thorpe, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to thank Mr. DePaul for his presentation, and I wanted to point out to our listeners and viewers that I think this is an excellent example of a partnership working together between the city and the regional district of Nanaimo. There are a number of people, I'm sure, who are not exactly clear on how this relationship works, but basically the city of Nanaimo is responsible for treating and providing clean drinking water to our citizens. The regional district of Nanaimo has responsibility for taking away wastewater and treating that. So it's sort of a unique situation perhaps, but it seems to work well. You referenced the treatment plant on Hammond Bay Road, which was, I think, one of the largest projects undertaken in the history of the regional district of Nanaimo, and it allows for secondary treatment of wastewater. Could you just briefly explain how secondary treatment differs from primary treatment?
Absolutely, through your worship. So primary treatment essentially is a physical process. Wastewater enters the treatment plant. We remove solids through screening and and we have grit tanks where we aerate and heavy solids are removed. From there, they go into primary clarifiers. We did introduce alum. It's a flocculant and a coagulant that helps remove additional solids. Through that process, we would remove around 60% of the solids before discharge. What we've now added to that process still remains. We've added a biological process. All secondary processes are biological, so there is essentially small bugs that consume organics in suspension and dissolved, and they we end up removing. Right now, we're removing about 95% of the solids before it's discharged through our outfall. And I just wanted to make one other note that I had failed to mention, and Director Thorpe, or Councillor Thorpe, pardon me, had mentioned sort of the relationship with the City of Nanaimo as well. The City of Nanaimo has the sewer collection system that they operate and maintain, and it does connect into our interceptor line. So it's an essential part of the overall system, and our partnership is very important, and we have a great working relationship with staff here at the City of Nanaimo.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your work.
Thank you, Councillor Thorpe. I'm not seeing any other questions. Mr. DePaul, much appreciated tonight.
Thank you.
A good reminder of the importance of what local government delivers to its citizens. We have a number of committee minutes for receipt. The next item after that, item 10, is a motion for adoption of consent items unless someone wishes anything removed. Moved Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. We have 3 delegations unrelated to agenda items. The first is Brian Snyder, Health and Fire Safety Protection for Seniors Living in Manufactured Home Parks in the City. Mr. Snyder, if you could just introduce yourself for the record. You'll have 5 minutes, sir, and I will let you know when there's a minute left. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, Good evening. I am Brian Snyder. I live in Charmin Mobile Home Park, 6325 Metro Drive. I want to talk to you about fire safety for seniors in manufactured home parks. It's important to note that manufactured home parks are private property and not the direct responsibility of the city. However, under the BC Manufactured Home Parks Tenancy Act, they are required to meet with housing, health, and safety standards required by law. So who are these people? Does this work? How do I change the slide? Oh, okay. Oh, no, I went too far. Okay. Who are we? We're 25 manufactured home parks in the city, 3,000 Nanaimo homeowners, 1,630 homes. 90% of the residents are 55 plus seniors. Our home assessments total over $400 million. We pay taxes and we vote. So what I would like you to do tonight is solve the mystery of home insurance and fire hydrants. Let me ask you some rhetorical questions. Do you own property in a home? Do you have home insurance? When you apply for the insurance, does it ask for the proximity to the nearest fire hydrant? Do you worry at night that the hydrant won't work? Why not? Some homeowners do. What if you could not get home insurance because the insurance company believed the city was not servicing its fire hydrants? So what are the laws that we're working about that city? Bylaw 7108 is fire protection and life safety regulation, and mobile home parks bylaw 2704. What is our mystery tonight? The mystery is the fire hydrant. Does this hydrant comply with the Nanaimo Fire Hydrant Protection Bylaw 7108? Will it function when required? And who is responsible for this fire hydrant? Note the White House in the background. What happened? The fire. November 15th, 2022, 4 a.m. in the morning. Shed fire started by a homeless person. Fire almost spread to other homes in the park, but for a lucky, cool, damp, windless night. The fire hydrant is 50 meters from the home. This is the results. Now, this is the White House. Notice the proximity to the shed to the home. Some of that siding was damaged, didn't catch on fire. The insurance claim is in excess of $40,000. Why did this hydrant not work? Let's look at the Nanaimo Fire Hydrant Incident Report 22-108233, and I quote, "The hydrant tagged was not functioning, so E2 operator and one other were tasked with shuttling water from a hydrant just outside the mobile home park to E3. Note, the hydrant is 50 meters from the home. The hydrant outside the park is 500 meters from the home. The hydrant was previously test reported on June 6, 2021. Sometime between June 7th, 2021 and November 14th, the hydrant ceased to function. Why did the fire hydrant not work? Were the Nanaimo Fire Department not familiar with the hydrant? Was there no supply with the hydrant? Could they not turn on the hydrant? Was the hydrant compliant with the bylaw 7108? The private property owner states the hydrant was operating. Preliminary investigation from the fire department finds no violations of bylaw 7108. What is the truth? Here's the responsibilities of a private property owner under bylaw 7108. Request, identify, report, test annually, submit Schedule F, keep inspection reports. 3 years. Why is this important and necessary? To ensure the hydrants work. A Freedom of Information request to the Nanaimo City Government on December 29th, 2022, requested 718 Schedule F reports for 21 home manufactured home parks for the past 3 years. Quote from the report, city response, "We have attached all the inspection reports that the fire department was provided for the addresses time period 3 years requested. The FOI returned 9 out of a possible 200 reports. Where are 191 reports?
1 minute.
Thank you. Is there a solution? Bylaw enforcement. Private property owners may not comply with bylaw 718 and provincial and federal safety standards. The city will not enforce bylaw 7108 unless there is a specific complaint. How does a resident make a complaint if they have no specific information on hydrant operations? How would you find out if the hydrant near your home was not working? So this is the action I ask for you. Apply bylaw 2704 to all Nanaimo homes, manufactured home parks, because it states that combs must be within 60 meters of a hydrant. Only 7 of 20 parks are included in this bylaw. Some parks have no hydrants. Some parks do not comply with bylaw. In my park, we have 4 hydrants for 147 homes, and approximately 70 homes are not anywhere near 60 meters from apart on HUD. So how close? So what is the mystery? Can you solve this for me, please? Could the fire and rescue department turn the hydrant on? Was there a water flow? Was the hydrant compliant with bylaw 708? And spend some time reflecting on the following. Are seniors in manufactured home parks treated with the same fairness and consideration as other Nanaimo residents? Or are we forgotten because we live in a mobile home park? Here's your homework. Oh, just a quick one.
Could wrap up.
Thank you. Yep, wrapping up right away. If you take this information bulletin of the fire commissioner, it goes back to January, talks about deaths in mobile home parks from fires. Escape from mobile fire homes is difficult for a number of reasons. So do these homes need the best fire protection possible? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate, sorry, it's no jeering, clapping, or otherwise expressing emotion in the council chambers. Thank you. I want to express thanks for providing a written copy of your presentation to council prior to the meeting. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. I just was seeking clarification. You made a comment about the home insurance. Some didn't get it because the fire hydrants weren't working. How was that information made to the insurance company?
I don't know. It's not my home. It was only 3 places away from my home. I have talked to the owner of the home. They have spoken with the fire department. I think they're waiting to see what the insurance company will do about this. There's a liability issue, perhaps, if the hydrant wasn't working, but whose fault is it? We're not sure. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Thank you. I will have a question for the fire chief after.
Thank you. Councillor Perino?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Mr. Schneider. Excellent presentation. Thank you. Very well thought through. I really appreciated it.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering if you can tell me what are most of the homes heated with? Is it propane?
No, most of them are heated with electric forced air. A lot of them are heated now with gas. We're getting more gas in the park. That would be the 2 main way of heating them.
Okay. I appreciate this, and again, I'll certainly have questions for our fire chief, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other questions for Mr. Snyder. Appreciate
Thank you.
the presentation tonight. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you, Chief Doyle. You heard the presentation. Can you speak on how often fire hydrants are inspected and what the process is concerning what we heard tonight, please?
Hydrant inspections happen according to NFPA 25. So there's a schedule laid out in hydrants for annual inspections.
And is every hydrant done yearly or just based on that schedule? I'm just wondering for like insurance purposes, because I do know for me, I had to say how close it was and was it functioning, so.
Oh, in terms of private hydrants, it's the responsibility of the park owner.
Thank you.
Councillor Perino?
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you to Chief Doyle. Thank you so much for being here and to answer these questions. And so the hydrant situation is the responsibility of the park owner, is that correct?
That's correct. Through the chair, or through Your Worship, to Councillor Perino, the responsibility to inspect the hydrant is the park owner.
Is the responsibility to have the number of hydrants also the responsibility of the park owner?
Well, as Mr. Schneider referenced in the mobile home park bylaw, I can't remember the number exactly, but that in our bylaw it says every 60 meters, but when the parks were developed, that's when the hydrants would have put in. So if they don't conform to that at this point, then it would be a matter of up to the park owner to retrofit them to meet that standard.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, then the concerns ought to go to the park owner versus your department. Is that correct?
That's correct, through Your Worship.
Is there a way that the fire department, through yourself, go directly to the park owners? Is that through your, because I know you're doing inspections all the time, is that part of your work to?
In terms of the going to the park owner, we don't go directly to the park owner.
Okay.
And it would be their choice, because when the park was originally developed, they would have been developed in accordance with the rules at that time. So those parks have been there for a long time, so any retrofitting would be up to them at their own volition. We can't compel them to install hydrants all over their park. At this point, we don't have any tools to do that with.
So just as a final question, so would it be advantageous for Mr. Snyder and his neighbors to go to the park owners immediately?
Through your worship, to Councilor Perino, yes, and I think they
Have done
from
it.
what we've had meetings with Mr. Schneider, and I think they have. So,
Thank you for your answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gesselbrock, and then Councillor Manley.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to follow up on Councillor Perino's question, so is there no provincial regulation or other forms of accountability on mobile home parks to have the hydrants inspected? Basically, if nobody's checking up on the owners at this state point, whether they're functioning or not?
in our bylaw, through your worship, to Councilor Gesselbrock, the responsibility is in our bylaw. So we have it in our bylaw.
That the mobile home parks have to have their fire hydrants inspected annually.
That's correct, through the chair, or through your worship. That's correct, that they have to have them inspected annually and submit their records to the fire department.
Okay, so we annually, if we don't get a submission from a mobile park, we have on record how many fire hydrants they have on the property, and if we didn't receive a submission, we would then follow up.
The legacy practice has not been it's just a receipt of the records. So we haven't been following up on whether they submit their records annually.
Okay, so currently there's a chance if an owner is not taking proper responsibility, they could lapse in their, in having their fire hydrants inspected for multiple years.
Through your worship, to Councilor Gesselbrock, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Your Worship, and this, continuing this line of questions, thanks to the presentation of the presenters, by the way. So that the fire department has no tools to enforce compliance with the regulations. Is that what I'm hearing?
Through your worship, to Councilor Manley, our bylaw, we do ask them to submit the records, so we can follow up on those.
But there's no enforcement mechanism at all if,
Fines.
yeah.
Yeah.
Have there been any fines levied to property owners for not complying with the bylaw?
If you can stand by 1 sec. Not to our knowledge.
Do you believe that we need a stronger bylaw in place to enforce standards on mobile home parks?
Not necessarily. The reality is we've been allocating our resources to, we have only so many resources in that division, and we've been allocating our resources to the highest priority issues. So investigations, inspections. So no, I don't think we need a stronger bylaw. I think the bylaw gives us the tools that we need to manage this situation.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. Just to follow up on that, when you go do your inspection, like if there was a complaint, would the people of the mobile home park be able to access the fact that it was inspected in 2019 versus 2020? Do they have that ability to do that?
Through your worship, to Councillor Armstrong. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So let's say Mr. Snyder decided he wanted to find out when his a fire hydrant was last inspected. Would he be able to go to the fire hall and say, okay, I live at this area, you know, show proof of address, and then find out if there had been an inspection?
Through your worship, Councillor Armstrong. Not as easily as that, but they can FOI the information, or they can request it from the park themselves.
Okay, and, okay, I just think it's something I'm gonna have to think about. We might need to do a little bit more around this, because I'm just concerned, having investigated many arson fire, or not, well, fires in Mobile, they go so fast, and that getting fast water suppression on is really important, so, I'm gonna just take this into consideration for now and then think about it further. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. The next delegation is Susan Jarvis, Ken Burley, and Susan Hermanson, re 24-hour parking exemptions for residents in buildings that only provide 30% parking spaces. Good evening and welcome, and if you can just introduce yourselves for the record, you'll have 5 minutes, and I will tell you when there's a minute left. Thank you.
My name is Susan Hermanson, and I live at 10 Buttertubs.
Good evening. My name is Susan Jarvis, and I also live at 10 Buttertubs.
Good evening, Your Worship and Councillors. My name is Ken Burley, and I live at 10 Buttertubs as well.
Thank you very much. Please.
On behalf of the residents of 10 Buttertubs, we thank you for giving us this time to address you on this matter of parking at 10 Buttertubs. You've received our proposal by email, so I'm sure you've taken time to read through it. We just want to take this time to make a few highlights. The bylaws of our city are moral documents. They outline for us a way of being in relationship with each other, how we can get along with our neighbors, and how we treat each other. We thank you in that letter that we sent, that considering the amendment to bylaw 2018, number 7266, subsection 72, table 4, to ensure that seniors are treated the same as other Nanaimo residents and will be allotted 1 parking space per living unit in future senior housings. We've also been told by a staff member that a staff member has been assigned and will undertake a parking study, which I hear from my neighbors has been happening this week, to see if they can create more parking spaces for us on our street. And we understand that this is to be completed in 10 to 12 weeks, and we welcome this news. Thank you. Unfortunately, it does not address the burden put on seniors by the 24-hour on-street parking limit. There are many stories of hardships that this has put on us. Residents are receiving parking tickets they can't afford on their limited income. Paying $35 a day for parking is ridiculous. To avoid the parking tickets, seniors are having to set their alarms to remind them to go out and move their car at their 24-hour intervals. Seniors who are sick or have limited mobility issues and just can't get out to move their cars are in a real bind. We are living in fear of getting a parking ticket. Is this the way of City Nanaimo wants to treat their seniors? This bylaw being enforced leaves us few options. Either our lives are revolving around moving our car every 24 hours, or not having a car and diminishing our quality of life. Perhaps it's time to make an amendment to the 24-hour parking limit in our area so we can relax and enjoy our retirement and not live in fear of receiving an expensive parking ticket.
Thank you, Susan. I got the easy job here, actually. I was to get in touch with the bylaws department to find out exactly how many tickets have been issued in our area over the last 2 months, actually. So for this I am assuming this was from January to now. They've issued 36 tickets to our residents, and that comes to a total of $1,033.75 that we have paid to the City of Nanaimo to park there. Last year, 2022, there was only 4 tickets issued for a total of $107.50. So you can see there's been a big increase. And we understand that somebody probably complained about the parking, so that's why this has all come about. And we also understand that there's a study going on right now that they're looking at. What are you doing? Oh my goodness, okay. What we want to say is, can we just not get any more parking tickets till the study's finished?
Thank you. You have less than a minute, sir, please, Mr. Burley.
In July last year, there was a newspaper article in which Your Worship said that, or the conversation came up, which stated it created barriers for people with physical and financial limitations whose residents lacked adequate on-site parking. Resident exemption already exists in areas for Brecon Hill, Nanaimo Regional Hospital, Vancouver Island University, and downtown. That's all we're asking is an exemption from the bylaw. Buttertubs Drive is a dead-end street. We're not interfering with traffic flow. And there's not insufficient parking in the building for all the residents. There's over 200 of us, and there's only 40 parking stalls.
I know, it's ridiculous.
So,
That's our problem.
if I may continue, last week there was a engineering crew came down and did a study. It was on the news last week. We'd like to know how long that study is going to take, and how soon for action are we going to see the action that this investigation accomplished. We're stuck with parking. There's a lot of us that are elderly and immobile or don't move too well. They need the cars close to where they live so they can reach them without falling down. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. I just wanted to let you know that I made this motion last year, and we had a report in September, but there's going to be another report coming forward because we found that we wanted more information, and I believe that will be coming to us in July. So until we see that report, myself, I'm not in a position to make any promises, but I do agree with you 100%. If you watch council, you know I'm always opposed to parking variations because I think cars are very important, especially for seniors, as many are scared to use the bus, or the time frame is just too long. So I'm hoping that a lot of your concerns will be addressed in this new report, and we will wait to see what happens then. Thank you.
Through you, Councillor, through the mayor to you, the bus is 3/4 of a kilometer away, and a lot of the people that live there can't walk that far.
Okay.
I understand that. I've been dealing with another area as well that has the same concerns, that the bus stops are too far for people with mobility issues, and some of them are scared to walk them at night as well. So
Yeah.
thank you.
We have homeless people living behind the building as well. So.
Councillor Perino, you have a question?
I do, Your Worship, thank you. Through you, first of all, excellent presentation, and you've kept us up to date with your emails and that, and I really appreciate that because it's, you know, I think a lot of us sitting at this table are thinking, how in the world is this happening? But I wanted to ask a question of Mr. Lindsay regarding the parking situation. So the parking is made more difficult because of people going on the marsh, right? Is that correct? Is that what the problem is, or is it just the residents that fill up the few spaces that there are?
Mr. Lindsay?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I think there's a couple things I might add to where the nature of the problem. And certainly Buttertubs is a community asset, and people go there all the time to walk around the marsh, and I suspect the parking stalls at the end of Buttertubs are often used by people that are frequenting the park, so there's those competition for spaces. But I also wanted to clarify, when we talk about seniors housing, I didn't want to leave the impression that every place where seniors lived in the city, we had a lower parking rate. We have something very specific in our parking bylaw that talks about seniors congregate housing. And there's a definition of seniors congregate housing, and it talks about a facility that has care and has communal living, and it has dining halls, and meals and services are provided. Very different than a condominium or townhouse project that may be designated for 55 plus or seniors. Those would be under our bylaw, multifamily, and have multifamily rates like any other development in the city. It's developments that at the time they come forward that meet the definition of seniors congregate housing that are given the lower parking rate, as was the case with the project that's before you tonight.
Okay. Is there anything that can be done to reduce the number of parking tickets, particularly until the study is done in July? I mean, 35 tickets is...
I'm not sure we want to be asking staff how to reduce doing.
I know.
shortcuts, you know?
You know what, as soon as you said it, I get it. It's just that when you're sitting in their position, they're so stuck, right? They're just so stuck, and I'm just wondering, you know, here we are waiting for a study to be completed when, I mean, we can all see it's just not enough parking stalls.
Ms. Gurry has a comment.
Just, Your Worship, I would just ask that council have questions for the delegation so they could sit
Sorry.
and save questions for staff. And
It's just they're there, sorry.
I'm not seeing any other questions for the delegation.
Get into it.
I'm going to be kind and let you say one more thing, yes.
Just to address the classification, I think there's been an error in the classification of our building. It is not a care home. We are not provided any care in that building. There are meals provided for those who want to pay for them. And right now there's about 20 or 30 people that do that out of the 200 units. So I think the classification was wrong when the planning happened. But we can't change that now. Like, we have what we have. We just ask consideration in our parking problem now.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Appreciate the delegation coming tonight. We have one more delegation, Ms. Gurry. That's Craig Keating, Small Housing BC, Re-BC's Housing Action Plan.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'm going to be very quick.
Mr. Keating, good evening and welcome. If you can introduce yourself for the record, and then the floor is yours for 5 minutes, as you've heard, and at 1 minute, I'll let you know.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I'm here with Small Housing BC. I'm going to pass things very quickly to my colleagues Akua Schatz and Jake Fry. But I do want to say on a night when you're thanking staff, the excellent staff at Legislative Services who made getting this delegation on the books a very easy process. So with that, Your Worship, I'll pass things off to my colleagues.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Craig. Well, what we'll do is we'll just introduce the organization. We are a nonprofit organization. Now, we move the slide ahead, one. We're an organization that is focused really primarily on the introduction of ground-oriented housing in single detached zones. And this it really refers to single zoned lots that represent the vast majority of the land mass in most communities, including Nanaimo. We are an organization that focuses on building the capacity of governments and planners to be able to action this, as well as work through best practices of research, providing opportunities for engagement with government, and identifying different market development tools to move pieces along. If you move ahead to the next slide, you're probably well aware that there's been a number of announcements since April regarding infill development or gentle density housing. And this is related to the Homes for People plan that also has announced that Nanaimo on the list of the 47 communities identified. This includes working requirements around 3 to 4 units per lot, even more units on lots that are near larger transit networks, height setbacks that would be observed, and parking minimums to be able to facilitate more housing to address our housing crisis. If you move ahead another slide. To maybe illustrate some of the housing forms that we're speaking about, there are a range. This isn't necessarily just a coach house in the backyard or a basement suite. It can include house plexes, which are akin to looking like a house on the outside, but have multiple entryways and smaller apartments inside, row homes, tiny homes, small lot homes, and lock-off suites as the range of typologies that exist that can be easily situated on single detached lots. Move ahead to the next slide. it's always easier to illustrate these types of options when you see real representations of them via pictures. And so this is this similar typologies, but showing examples in real life. These are not examples that exist only in our imagination, but rather have been built historically over many, many years, and represent a great alignment with community character. If we move ahead another slide. One of the things that often comes up is whether or not the public is supportive of infill housing, especially in lower density residential zones. And what we found is, in fact, they definitely are. Through a province-wide poll that we undertook with an agency, we found that not only did 73% of British Columbians rate affordable housing sort of top of the list of some of their bigger concerns, 71% of those of individuals believe that this form or infill housing could help address the crisis. And I think surprising to everyone else, you would find that actually about a fifth of respondents of homeowners across various urban areas would consider building a small secondary home on their property within the next 5 years, pointing to a great unmet demand in the marketplace. We're going to move ahead then. I'll pass this over to Jake to take you through the next couple of slides.
And 1 minute.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Council. I'll be as brief as I can. I think it's very important that we look at this form of housing, mostly because these are one of the few opportunities we have to initiate a lot of housing with, and at the same time mitigate speculation. And one of the ways that we're going to be able to do that is to be able to homeowners themselves initiate these projects. And what enables that is for homeowners to actually be able to leverage their property, and that will be helped immensely by making regulations simple and clear. And this enables ownership alongside rental. And this is an important fact that we really feel that there needs to be both an ownership strata model as well as a concurrent rental market. If I can move ahead a slide. And really, a lot of this becomes around the assurity that homeowners have, making regulations simple and allowing procedures to be clear, allowing for parking relaxations, and limiting the additional charges that a municipality will charge will become fundamental into really fostering these opportunities for housing that's going to be created by this initiative. If you can move ahead again, please, to the next slide. And really, we really find that a lot of that is enabled with the ownership. Having so much land currently owned privately, a lot of that ownership taking place without significantly burdened by larger mortgages allows homeowners to actually open up and easily finance these projects on their own. And as we've seen, there's a big demand asked for this type of housing in the province. And what's interesting is that in allowing homeowners to do this rather than developers, it really pencils out that this becomes a tool that really mitigates land speculation. If we could move ahead, and I'll pass it back to my
If I was going to
colleague
say,
Akua.
we're well past the 5 minutes now, so if someone can wrap up, please. Council may have questions.
All right, we'll just move ahead to the next slide then and demonstrate two pieces of information that are helpful to us. We're not the only ones, but this has happened in California, Oregon, and Washington. And if you move ahead to the next slide, one of the key takeaways of this is it actually really does unlock housing. There were 53,500 permits issued in California alone over a 3-year period. That was an increase from 500 before they introduced the statewide legislation. And then lastly, just to wrap up, this is an important one really about affordable housing, is that in those instances in California, you really are seeing this alignment of average incomes with accessibility to these units. Which is, I know, critical to all of you looking to seek solutions around affordable housing in your community. And we can just move ahead to the last slide and to put it towards a thank you. One more ahead.
Thank you. Much appreciate the presentation. Council may have some questions. I'm not seeing any, interestingly, which tells me your presentation must be very clear, or they have no interest in housing, and we know that's not the truth. As housing is a problem everywhere in the province. The devil will be in the details if, and I'm not going to ask a question if no members of council are, the devil will be in the details, and I think that's what we're all looking for from the provincial government. Because we certainly have a housing shortage in Nanaimo, of affordable housing, indeed housing period. We have a significant population who are unhoused, another significant portion who are couch surfing. So insofar as you can work with the provincial government to persuade them to move, we'd much appreciate it. Councillor Brown looks like he wants to ask a question. Yes, good. Councillor Brown, you're on.
It's not a question, Your Worship, but I hope you'll just permit it. But, you know, we have a fairly strong history in the city of Nanaimo around secondary suites and intensification in residential neighborhoods. And several months ago, Council passed a resolution to basically look into every one of those options. So I suspect that's why staff will be bringing it forward in a timely fashion, but I just suspect that's why no questions were asked. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Much appreciate your attendance tonight via the ether. Good luck. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next item are reports, and the first is Council Strategic Framework, which I'm going to introduce. And I want to welcome Alison Habkirk, who's on the line, registered professional planner, former citizen and public servant in the area, and a long time and very helpful advisor to various municipal governments across the province and other places. Thank you for attending tonight, Ms. Habkirk. Just to outline what I'm talking about, the strategic framework is Council's document, if you will. It was the result of work developed through a series of workshops held over the past several months to guide us for the 2023-2026 years. The conversations that took place during these workshops provided councillors with the opportunity to discuss items of priority and importance to them. It reflects the focus areas that appeared as key themes during these discussions and will help guide Council's decision-making in the years ahead. In the past, a strategic plan has often been developed by each council. However, with City Plan, which got us an award, and the accompanying integrated action plans helping to set the foundation for our path ahead, it was clear that Council, that rather than developing another plan, what we needed was a framework that supports the Council's priorities, and that this was the most appropriate approach. As I said, we were very fortunate to have had those sessions facilitated by Ms. Habkirk, who's here to answer questions tonight. There are 6 focus areas reflected in the Council Strategic Framework. The first is implementing City Plan action plans and key city management plans, and Council will work with staff to develop action plans that will help guide Council's priority setting and implementation of City Plan over the term of this Council and hopefully into the future. Next is the social health and public safety challenges, of which we are all aware and which present probably the most discussed challenge to any council anywhere in the province and indeed the country. The city will continue to implement the Downtown Safety Action Plan and support the Nanaimo Systems Planning Organization, while we continue to advocate to senior levels of government for not just their support, but for the delivery and implementation of the solutions necessary to relieve the misery that characterizes our streets. Maintaining and growing current services, we want to ensure that the city continues to plan for, maintain, and grow its services while ensuring we are fiscally responsible and responsive to our community's evolving needs. And that includes significant infrastructure projects which are already underway, including the new water line, and those that are on the drawing board. With respect to capital projects, and another one of the 6 focus areas, we recognize there are a number of these capital projects, both large and small, that will contribute to the quality of life and services needed across the city, and we are committed to working to plan and resource those future key capital projects, which may well and in all likelihood will involve public participation by way of referenda. Communicating with the community. We are committed to communicating based on the principles of transparency, accountability, and accessibility. This council, I think, has in the last 4.5 years been very open with the public and had numerous discussions and included working and communicating with the community, particularly around Reimagine Nanaimo, which has been so successful. We understand the importance of engaging with our community and stakeholders and ensuring that we're responsive to their needs and concerns, and indeed are in the middle of communicating now, asking people, how do you wish to communicate with your council? What is the most effective way? For those of us who aren't addicted yet to pickleball and aren't participating in Facebook or Twitter, it may be a letter or a telephone call or an email, but for many others, it may be the social media. It may be a good old-fashioned personal appearance. And finally, around governance and corporate excellence. Good governance, corporate excellence continue to be foundational to our work. Are committed to ensuring that the city provide excellent service, delivery, and innovative, expeditious information-based decision-making. And if there's this one success of this council, and there are many, but I'm not going to take this as a brag opportunity, the fact is this council, since 2018, has restored, by every measure, good governance to the city of Nanaimo, which was so crucial after such a different period and a very challenging time for my predecessor. That is what the report is all about. Any questions for Ms. Habkirk or comments from Ms. Habkirk?
You can, if I could just say a couple things. You completely stole my thunder, which is great, because I hope this means that council really feels this is their framework. It really is very much from my point of view. You took an unconventional approach. I think that was entirely appropriate given where you're at and where City Plan was at. And by all accounts, you're working hard to develop the action plans and to set the capital priorities and to work on all of the other focus areas of this strategic framework. So I congratulate you. I hope very much that you will find this framework helpful, and I want to also congratulate you on winning the PIBC award, and what an accomplishment that is, especially in the time of COVID. And to just say too that I was part of the team in 1992 with the first Imagine Nanaimo official community plan that won a similar award. So clearly there's a pattern here, and you should just keep on it, I say. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any tonight. Much appreciate your attendance. Councillor Gesselbrock, do you want to make the recommended motion?
I'd like to move that council endorse the 2023-2026 council strategic framework as attached to the 2023 June 5th council agenda.
I have a seconder, Councillor Hemmens. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And any opposed? None? You're opposed? Councillor Brown's opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Ms. Habakirk, appreciate your attendance tonight. Keep well. Thank you. The next is liquor license amendment application number LA 153-Unit 101223 Commercial Street. Mr. Lindsay, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you mentioned, we're seeking this evening Council's resolution with respect to a proposed change of hours to a restaurant that operates out of the location you mentioned at 223 Commercial. Right now, the business operates with a liquor license from 9 a.m. till midnight, proposing to go amend that to go from 9 a.m. until 1 a.m., 7 days a week. Happy to take any questions.
I'm not seeing any questions. Motions made by Councillor Hemmens, seconded by Councillor Thorpe. Any need for discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. The next is 12C, liquor license application number LA 154-Unit 2 5771 Turner Road. Mr. Lindsay, and this is just for information, please.
Yeah, Your Worship, and we're sticking with the theme of liquor license applications this evening. So this is for a new liquor license. So the process is, at this point, Council receives a report for information. It goes out for consultation with the community, including it'll come forward to your public hearing later this month. Once you receive that feedback, it'll come back to Council for a recommendation that'll then go forward to the board. And happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Lindsay at this time?
Yes, I have one.
Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through to Mr. Lindsay. Are there any other establishments of this, of a service level of this type that have a liquor license in town, just as a?
None that I'm aware of. I believe this is a relatively new initiative by the province to allow liquor to be combined with personal service uses. So if there has been one, I'm not, off the top of my head, I can't recall.
So the province is allowing
it.
Gotcha. I see. This is a fairly new legislation that they're allowed to do this.
That's correct.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any other questions, we're on to item 12D, Complete Communities Funding Program 2023-24. Again, Mr. Lindsay, please.
Thank you, Worship. And we're seeking Council's endorsement for an application to UBCM for the 23-24 funding program, which would allow us to proceed and finance the area plan for the Woodgrove Urban Center. If we're successful, we'll be eligible up to $150,000, and because we're doing this in combination with the regional district, there could be another $50,000 available for a total of $200,000. So again, just seeking Council's support to make the application.
Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Hemmons, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Any questions for Mr. Lindsay? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. We're on to item 13, bylaws, fees and charges, amendment bylaw 2023, number 7336.04. Councillor Gesselbrock.
I'd like to move that fees and charges amendment bylaw 2023, number 7336.04, a bylaw to incorporate the new Parks, Recreation and Culture classification system and price structure, be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. 13B, Housing Agreement Bylaw 2023, number 7363. Councillor Gesselbrock.
Move that Housing Agreement Bylaw 2023, number 7363, to secure unit affordability, be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. And finally, 13C, Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2019, number 4500.155. Councillor Gesselbrock.
Move that Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2019, number 4500.155, to rezone 50 10th Street to allow cannabis resale store as a site-specific use in the City Commercial Center, CC3 zone, be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We have no notices of motion. No other business. Question period. Thank you very much. Susan Barr on 11B. Ms. Barr, good evening. Welcome.
Again, if many of you remember, on November 2nd, 2019, I made a similar request about the 24-hour parking. I live on the 400 block of Selby Street. And I pointed out that both Vancouver and Victoria, upon application from residents who do not have sufficient parking for their residents, can apply for exemptions to the 24-hour parking rule in both of those cities. And asking why that could not be done here, one of the comments was, well, we'd have to hire a whole bunch of bylaw people to look after that, which is not true. It's all computerized. Right now I apply, I'm in the computer for a 2-hour parking exemption. But again, going out every 24 hours to move my car, and I can only park on the west side of the street. Arthritis in my hands and back. Every winter, I'm back at the chiropractor having to shovel my car out. Thank you. I'm asking, why can't you do something?
I knew there was a question coming.
Thank you.
Taken note. Nicely advocated. Thank you. Fred Kidner, 11A. I'm not seeing Mr. Kidner. These council meetings just aren't exciting enough to keep the audience anymore. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much, and thank you to staff for attending tonight as always.